Hey, my name is Tamba, and this is the first of many YouTube videos to come. I've had ideas to start a YouTube channel about something for a while, and the best way to start is to just start. And fortunately, I don't have a script. My reactions here may not be the best, but it's a start. I want to talk about on this channel videos and topics relating to business, maybe finance, tech, and yeah, so for this first one, it's going to be pretty short, most likely. It will probably be a pretty bad reaction, but I have to get my reps in some way. So here we go. And so today we're going to be taking a look at the Figure 1 humanoid robot. And this company was started by Brett Adcock, I believe, sometime less than 2 years ago. I saw an interview with him recently that said 19 months ago. I think that was a month old. So under that 2-year time frame. And this is, we'll kick it off. I'm already kind of nervous, whatever. And something important to point, like I'm already pausing the video. Something important to point out, right, is that this is a collaboration or partnership between Figure 1 and OpenAI, right? And OpenAI has obviously kind of taken the world by storm ever since kind of ChatGPT got its wide release, I think November 2022, if I'm not mistaken. So let's see what this can do. And, sometimes demos, oh yeah, let's just watch it.
Hey, Figure 1, what do you see right now?
I see a red apple on a plate in the center of the table, a drying rack with cups and a plate, and you standing nearby with your hand on the table.
Great. Can I have something to eat?
First pause already. So one thing that's interesting, right? I've been working with ChatGPT, and I believe maybe in the last 6 months, they kind of announced that now ChatGPT can see and ChatGPT can kind of hear, right? It can respond back to audio you give it. And so I'm actually curious here when we talk about what it sees. I guess obviously the Figure 1, I believe this is called, by Figure AI, the actual humanoid robot. This had cameras on it so it could walk and do all these things. I'm curious what is actually doing who's maybe doing the translation of the video to maybe the objects, meaning how much AI did Figure build out before this partnership with OpenAI, right? Are they able to detect certain objects themselves, or how much is okay, we have the video input from Figure AI, but then we're giving this to OpenAI, and then OpenAI is saying, I see an apple on a plate, I see you standing here, I see these utensils here. Partnerships can, right? This is an early partnership for a startup, right? Partnerships, obviously, these things, they probably sign some type of contract, right? These can, they can last for a long time or they can last for a short time. So I'm curious to see, to know whether, what would happen if these things were to break up, if they were to not work together in the future after some period of time. Who would have, how much are they relying on OpenAI, right? Hopefully, if they're smart, they realize, right, we need to, and look at me giving it, but hopefully if they're smart, right, what do I know? But they hopefully realize that they should build up backups, or they need to be doing their own training. And then, again, I guess I lack the knowledge in this area too much. So then who's doing the actual inference? Maybe they're doing some type of training, but then how many pictures and videos do they need to ingest to then build their own model to detect what is an apple, what is a plate, right? When the lighting conditions are different, that's all these things are huge factors. The lighting can change. That's the lighting change. If it's a lot more dark, if there's different fluorescent lights versus, I don't know, another type of light, but incandescent light bulbs, I hope that's a difference. All those things can vastly change what your robot is able to do and see. And then do you have to then go retrain it, all this other stuff, because, okay, it works under factory lights, but does it work in someone's garage, or does it work when you have daylight and all these factors? So.
Sure thing.
I kind of paused it at the time when he had just asked it. We can even turn on closed caption. I believe he asked it to give him something to eat after he described what we was eating.
Great. Can I have something to eat?
Sure thing.
And so this is where we see the robot, right, for the first time, actually being able to do stuff, be dexterous, to be able to, I hope I use that word.
Great.
Right, to be able to actually pick things up, to be able to, different objects. I've heard other people, like I said, I've been interested in this topic for some time, right? What is it to be able to pick up an apple or something that is decently rigid? Obviously, it's not like a brick or something, a case like this, where you can put a lot of pressure on it without much consequence. But an apple versus, a bag of chips, or a bag where you put something that has even a lot more air than this, where you push and you don't want to break the chips, and right? So you have to be able to grasp, and it sounds so funny because as humans, we don't have to think about this stuff. We learn as babies what it is to pick something up and to feel it and to know how much pressure to put on it. But for a robot, right, you have to teach it that, right? If you put too little pressure on something, it will slip out of your hands. If you put too much, you could potentially pop something. So how much do you, all that stuff is pretty cool. And so we saw that it was able to take the apple in one hand and pass it to the other. And it's able to use, I guess, I don't know how many fingers I'd use, but it has to decide how many fingers to use, how large is the object, all these things. And they've obviously trained it for so long to be able to do these quite simple tasks. That to us, we never think about how many things we have in our hands or what we're picking up or what we're doing, grabbing something and then getting the remote to turn on something on Netflix. All these things need to be trained. How to turn your arm, when do you look at a remote, or do you need to look at a remote anymore? If you know where the buttons are, all these things need to be taught and learned by these robots and these models.
Great. Can you explain why you did what you just did while you pick up this trash?
It's kind of interesting here. He gives it two things to do: explain why you did what you did, why you handed me the apple, and then also clean up this trash. Kind of interesting. Multitasking, I guess.
On it. So I gave you the apple because it's the only edible item I could provide you with from the table.
One thing that's kind of interesting, I heard this guy Scott Walker talk about different. I'll hopefully make a video on the Tesla. I was going to tell Tesloid, the Tesla humanoid robot. One thing you can notice is kind of, I'll mute it for a second, is that, right, if we were probably doing this, if you were talking, unless you were trying to show off that you didn't need to look down, right, you'd probably be looking down at the basket, right? So you'd have to, use your neck to move your head to look at what you were doing, because these robots can have however many cameras you want on them, right? They don't have to really look in a certain direction. They don't have to turn their whole head. So it's kind of interesting that it's doing something which is pretty, well, it's not that complex. Well, it is but whatever, right? It's taking something and putting it in a bin, but it's kind of keeping its head up. So right, in terms of if you wanted to make something that was maybe more, and how realistic do you want it to be? How much like a human do you want it to be? What are the takeoffs for that? Do you want it to be able to turn its head? Do you want it to be able to look at the person that's talking to you? And right, you have to build all these things in. But if you just notice that it probably has a certain number of cameras below or whatever, maybe something near its chin or near its mouth, or maybe so its eyes aren't just always looking out more. Or it could probably use its peripheral vision more reliably maybe than we can. So maybe even if it did only have one or two cameras that were pointing kind of where our eyes would be, it may be more reliably use the projection. Where for us, at least for me, right, it's pretty complicated to be kind of, probably moving objects and grabbing something and putting it in a bin. But if you have cameras, if you have a bunch of them, that's kind of no problem. And you can also see here, talking about the hands again, right, is able to grip this. So use a certain grip, something different than picking up an apple. And again, it may sound trivial, but all this stuff, right, had to learn these things. And who knows how much, again, is it using heuristics or coding to so literally the difference between coding in a bunch of different scenarios. So maybe they'd have coded in the scenario of picking up a basket and you give it a bunch of kind of different use cases almost, or whether it's learned over time, when you can show it a basket now and it can pick it up because it can identify, basically, it doesn't need to know what a basket is per se, but it can identify a rim and an edge and where to grip and where to put certain fingers and how you need to have enough force in a certain size so it doesn't tip one way or you don't just grab it and break it. All these things it's just so incredible that it's learned these things. If you can unmute it now.
From the table.
Right, and I don't know, it's this little stuff that you just got to notice if you put it, slow down the speed a bit, that it's able to, right, it's releasing, it's able to kind of it's basically, it's throwing things, right? It's not picking up and placing carefully, which is one thing, but it's able to throw. Kind of cool, right? It understand, they've had to model and I guess somewhat get it to understand physics and acceleration or momentum or whatever, so that that this, if you were to drop it just straight down there, it would go and hit the edge of the should probably make this larger. It will go hit the edge of the basket and maybe bounce out, but it's able to know that if my hand is traveling in this direction or whatever, the paper will continue to travel in that direction sufficiently enough to the point where it reaches the bottom of the basket. It's cool stuff. It's just it's pretty cool and inspiring what people are working on. I'm at 2. I'll change the speed here. So let's go back now to normal. Oops, sound's not on. I think it was explaining. Can I move myself here? Cool. Shout out Loom. So I guess explain that the apple is only edible thing. Oh, that was just heard it before.
Great. So, based on the scene right now, where do you think the dishes in front of you go next?
The dishes on the table, like that plate and cup, are likely to go into the drying rack next.
Great. Can you put them there?
You said one thing you noticed, the figure right on this screen here, right? It has different for when it's thinking or in between when it's talking. I'll lower the volume here a bit, and we can just go back in those 2 sections. It has different kind of icons or things it's displaying. So here's where you just add it.
Dishes on the table, like
Before it speaks. Okay, so I guess the kind of those audio bars, I don't know what to call those. Those are when it's speaking, I believe, but.
the dishes on the table.
Now, where do you think the dishes in front of you go next?
Okay, so never mind. I thought the icon changed, but it's at first it says he kind of stopped a second ago. Okay, that cloud icon or whatever. And so I think I've heard someone else talk about the fact that maybe right now these things aren't the best because maybe the inference has to still be right. You have to still speak a request, and then it's a difference between probably using spell check built in on your computer. That if you're offline, if you're on a Microsoft Windows, if you spell check or whatever it has grammar suggestions, I believe whatever suggestions that are coming from that, I could be wrong, but I believe they're like living on the machine. You don't need an internet connection for it to tell you these smaller things, right? If it's auto-correcting a word or whatever, it kind of knows that's not a word, and then it can deduce like what word is likely or around that word. I wonder how it does that, but whatever, it's able to do that just locally on your machine. The reason and it may seem small, but if you're talking to someone, right, if there's always if you're asking to do something, if there's always like a 2 to 3 second pause in between your what you say and that person says, it isn't the most whatever humanoid, realistic, whatever we want to call it. And so, what was I saying? Oh, and so that's just something where I think right now it's still having to take your request, like what you're saying, and then probably communicate those requests through some type of API calls, something back to OpenAI, and then OpenAI is trying to give a response. So it's just maybe one day all this inference, all these things can be done locally on the machine, on the robot itself, so it can give you an instant response, not something where it takes a while to have what you're saying and then get the request back, and do all the logic too, I guess, as well, right? It's one thing when you need to maybe on Facebook click RSVP to something or to like a post. That can be done pretty quickly. Or when you're getting, I should say, maybe something better is when you're chatting with someone on your iPhone. If you've ever sent a message, you'll see it you're next to your friend right there, and you'll see it shows up pretty instantly, right? Because it's just, I guess it's sending it and then it's coming to you, but this is actually having to do the inference, figure certain things out. So that's why, right, you can talk to ChatGPT sometimes, right? It does take a while unless you're on turbo, all these things. And the same thing with this is it's having to, do whatever calculations or inference, I don't really know the right words, whatever it's doing, it has to do that, plus the send time of the request and the receiving time. But that, I realized that the sending and receiving is probably less important. It's probably more minuscule as compared to the inference. Is probably what's taking the longer time. And so eventually, if that can be, again, locally, you can save down, you cut that time down, whatever, 95, 99%, and it could just respond to you like that. I guess there's one thing too, just as humans, right, when we talk to each other, we're almost preparing a response. We kind of know what someone's going to say, the next word. It'd be interesting to know, is this streaming kind of what someone's saying continuously, or no, maybe waiting. So that's another problem, is it's probably waiting for you to finish your whole sentence or whatever the prompt is, then it's sending it. Whereas with us right now, what I'm saying, you probably can finish the end of my right sentence in some ways in your head. You might know what I'm leading to. And that also cuts down on our response time. We're able to kind of start responding in our head, at least before the person finishes their or sentence or reply.
The dishes on the table, like that plate and cup, are likely to go into the drying rack next.
Great. Can you put them there?
So here it doesn't display that little cloud icon, interestingly. Oh, it does now. Oh, interesting. I wonder what that is. It was actually doing the action. Whatever, I messed up. It actually started doing the action before it started displaying this plate. Or they started grabbing for that. Again, we can see, right, the hands coming in to use the fingers, all those things. Just kind of scooping a plate, right? It's pretty hard sometimes to get a plate up, right? So, and all these things, right? If you're aware of them, it's so cool. If you think about it, I didn't catch any of this the first time watching. Now that I'm explaining it, I'm seeing these things too, right? But the difference between how you pick up cup and then how do you pick up a plate with a tiny is a brim the right word, right? It might be so. What does he do? He kind of scoops the plate, right? And the cup, I think we don't have to go back to see the cup because I'm already spending so long doing this. But right, look at how the plate gets picked up. And again, how much of this is right? If we were today to see like a plate that looked like a bowl or something, some weird plate that we've never seen before, something funky, maybe it was like half cup, we'd figure out how to pick it up and not drop it, or hopefully we'd figure it out because we've just seen so many. We picked up thousands of objects in our life. How would this do it? If it saw something it never saw before, how would it know to pick it up? Like if it was like I'm trying to look for something that maybe was kind of odd, but I guess I don't have something. So how much I wonder, has it trained, does it learn picking up and seeing videos or simulations of tens of thousands of objects being picked up? Or have they told it basically, hey, we trained you on basket, plate, apple, cup, stuff that for the video, the demo you need to know, right? The demo always, you're going to put your best foot forward. So these are the things you need to know. We're going to give you tens of thousands of videos of people picking up plates from different angles, and then you're going to learn the plates can be stacked if this way, if they're in this type of container, and all these things. But it's just pretty cool to see, right? It knows to kind of like to kind of push the plate, make like a little ramp with one hand and push the plate into it to kind of like up the incline, and then you'll get enough grip to grip it and put it away with his right hand. So we can speed this back up. It's just cool. I don't know. I didn't notice this stuff either before. I realized I was doing this stuff, but I didn't actually take the time to think about all the different objects.
All right. So how do you think you did?
Grade yourself.
I think I did pretty well.
Now that's really weird to me that they did that, because that is like super humanoid, dude. I've never asked ChatGPT something and it stutters or like that's whatever. So the thing is, like, I think I was like, whoa, what the hell? Why'd you do that? I mean, it's kind of cool, but
I think I did pretty well.
I think I did pretty well, right? It's like, does it need to? How many times have you asked, like, Google for something and it has like some type of like response that's highlighted where it's like in colloquial, like it's not even colloquial. It's just it's replicating speech. It's not even that the speech itself, the word choice is more casual. It's that it responded as a human may, and that it was unsure or that it was still calculating something.
I think I did pretty well. The apple found its new owner. The trash is gone, and the tableware is right where it belongs.
I agree. Thanks, Figure One.
You're welcome. If there's anything else you need help with, just let me know.
Yeah, how cool is that, right? So fully learned fast text manipulation. Let's slow this down again. But this is some of the stuff we were talking about during the video. We'll just slow it down a bit and turn up the music so it's not distorted. But yeah, it's able to pick all these things up, right? All you have to do is realize if people had to help figure this stuff out, teach it and coach it or whatever, or then I don't know too much necessarily how AI works on it, but whatever, AI had to maybe figure it out, but you had to realize all these actions you need to be able to do, and then even once it can infer it, though, then you need to be able to tell it, I guess, in the beginning, like how to use each finger and all these things, to the point where then it can learn on itself, right? Reinforce that, where it can learn through. It's probably collecting data. Maybe the humans are grading it for now, and then telling you like why this was good, why this is bad. This took too long, right? You fumbled this, and then it can maybe learn how certain, right? If it can measure all of its, if it can measure itself, or realize all the data between how it picked something up, how it grabbed something, how it turned all these things, and then the humans give it a grade. It can kind of correlate between what was good and what was bad, what do we need to get better at, and use and replicate more of the good actions as opposed to the bad actions. So here's we talk about kind of like the ability to throw things, picking up a cup by the top, kind of charting it, manipulating it, right? So taking it from like more of a portrait mode to a kind of landscape mode or whatever. I don't know if you use that for cups. The vertical to horizontal, right? Gripping it with the fingers toward the bottom. I think the fingers, if you slow down, I think they come on like one at a time to kind of grip it, starting from the pinky, the thumb, and then being able to put it upside down, right? Why do you put stuff in a drying rack upside down? Right, so it could dry, so the water can, if there's water on it, right, it can drain out. All these things. And then I guess it always returns to this kind of position. Oh, never mind, it's actually picking up the plate. But we did see when it kind of started up and when it kind of ended at the end, it kind of did do this, maybe this kind of this boot up, almost like you know that it's responding and it's, you know that it's not no longer on standby, that it's active instead. Handing someone the apple, dropping it too. So right, being able to see where his hand is and then know where to drop it, not needing him to like take it from his hand, but knowing like likely that this person will be able to catch it. Or I wonder what, and that they have fingers too, so they'll be able to grip it. Maybe it doesn't need to know that. Maybe it just says like, drop payload here, whatever, F it. But it seems like it's, well, I would think that it's able to do these things. Yeah. So that was actually pretty cool. So, as a, can I unmute it? Okay, it says music probably. So that's Figure AI logo, I believe, and there's OpenAI, obviously. Here's a ChatGPT. Cool. So, I'm just going to play this in the background, but I'm not going to comment over it. Now I'm going to give myself a grade for my first video, how I think I did. This is interesting. I didn't think I was going to have that much to talk about. I probably I probably spoke too much in terms of breaking down the video. But I thought it was going to be a lot weaker reaction. And although I want to be a lot more confident about the things I talk about, I was surprised how much, at least I thought I was teaching or learning or knew. I thought the video was going to be, 5 minutes, and lo and behold, I've ended up talking for 20. So that's, I don't know if that's encouraging. I don't know what it is, but I have things to say, which is, I guess, the point of having a YouTube channel, maybe, or wanting to communicate. So I'm proud that I've done this, and it seemed fun. And it was a lot easier, I think, in my head. Well, because, I wish I had obviously done more research or whatever, and in theory I will, not just have live reactions about I think. But it was pretty cool, and I have things to say, and I hope to say them. And I built starting videos or doing anything like this up in my head a long time, or I need a script, and then I'm going to need a thumbnail, and how will I know if my script's good, and do I need to check multiple sources, and how long is that going to take, and I'm probably going to get bored in the middle of it, and who would even watch me anyway, because my opinion is there are so many people that are more educated on this than I am. All these things all these reasons I've convinced myself not to start, or I've kind of procrastinated and delayed and said, I'll start tomorrow or next week. But this is cool so far. I will stop talking so the video doesn't end up being more than 24 minutes, hopefully. But if I publish this, thanks for watching it. And yeah, more to come. I'm going to be, I think, next video I'm going to be talking about, I'm just getting my reps in, right? So starting from nothing and trying to see if I can make better YouTube videos. And next video, I'll be talking about Tesla's humanoid robot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.